Hello, I'm Martin Mercer.
And I'm James Mastriani.
You've never heard of us.
We're two Brits who grew up in North London and have had varying success in the film and television industry.
In our ever-advancing age, we find ourselves on the wrong side of Hollywood. In our series of podcasts, we'll share our experiences of what it's like being a British bloke living and working,
or not,
in the biz.
We'll discuss everything from fish and chips to things that wind us up.
So stay with us. It's all uphill from here.
This podcast may contain strong language. If you're of a sensitive nature or easily offended, we invite you to, as they say in Blighty, jog on.
Welcome back, everyone.
You've been gagging to continue the adventures of Mary.
Well, let's get to it.
Everybody seemed to meet and get married on
Yeah,
that thing.
right.
And I'd say I met him on Ghostbusters, divorced him on Gremlins too. So that's kind of how I remember it. It's kind of weird timeline. This is how you put things. When people, what year did you do that? I think, what was I working on? And I
true.
relate everything
Totally.
to films.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah.
And you worked on Gremlins too.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that was
my
later.
God. This is going to go on for hours.
I know.
And we haven't even touched your writing abilities.
I'm going to share one quick story that happened through Boss Film.
Okay.
Half of my life spent on Masters of the Universe.
Oh,
really?
no. There's some great visual effects in there.
A lot of physical effects and a lot of visual effects and a lot of stories, which I won't touch on all of them. But I know that my friend Lars Anderson was the physical effects guy on that, and he's the one who forged the beautiful swords. That was aluminum, like aeronautic aluminum, heavy swords. They were made like the hero swords for He-Man and everything. And that was a lot of work, a year and a half, like I said. And they made that little thing that opens up and spins around, and I can't even remember what they called it, but it was an articulate prop created by Stuart Ziff. And you know that one of the main characters who played the little tiny wizard was Billy Barty,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
kidding.
yeah,
the
yeah.
little person.
Yeah.
I did not
Yeah.
know
I used to watch him when I was a child. He had a kid show called The Billy Barty Show, and he hosted this show for kids, and he's like 3'9", and he was elderly when he was cast for this role. And the character was made, I believe it was Westmore's company making his Wildor costume. It was a full, heavy foam over-the-head appliance.
Right.
So Billy is wearing this body outfit, a heavy robe with a hood, and this full prosthetic thing, the whole 9 yards. So on this particular day, we're out on location in Malibu Canyon during the summer when it's like 110
Oh
degrees.
my God.
Shit.
Now, Dolph Lundgren is wearing basically like a loincloth.
Right.
And he's running, he's sweaty and being Dolph, and the other actors are running. Here's Billy. Billy is supposed to be running with them. Billy can't keep up with them.
Right.
And he's running and he's running and he's running. And all of a sudden you hear this muffled, "Stop! God damn it, stop!" And at first I thought, where's that coming from? And I realized it's Mr. Barty, and he staggered over to a log and he rips this thing out. He's pouring sweat. Oh, God damn it. It's hot. I can't do this shit. And I thought, that's the man from my childhood. Seriously. And I totally understood.
Oh, yeah.
Cut. Please, someone get Mr. Barty some cold water. And he's grumbling and just spewing. And Dolph Lundgren is sitting there rolling his eyes. I was like, wow, you really should have thought out the whole makeup and him for this role. That was hard, but I thought that was one of the greater moments.
Oh, no, that's brilliant.
Poor Mr. Barty.
Brilliant.
But it was fun. And I remember at the time, Dolph Lundgren was also dating Grace Jones, the
that's
model.
right.
And they got into a bit of a tip.
On the set.
No, at home, she set his wardrobe on fire.
That's a very Grace Jones
is a
thing,
very
isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And I remember there were standing orders at Raleigh Studio that if she showed up, they were to get guards. She's not allowed on set. And everybody was like, do you think she'll come here? Like, no, she's not going to come here. What if they think she's, I don't know, man, I'll throw you at her. I'll run. All I have to do is run. She's strong.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was just one of the colorful stories. We can move on. I could talk about that all day.
That's just fantastic.
No, that's
So
amazing.
When you were at Warner Brothers.
Hold on. No.
Hang on.
No,
what?
no,
Am I
we've missed
skipping?
out Cinovation with Rick Baker. I know we talked about.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go
okay.
for it.
Come on, we have. Sorry, James.
I will backtrack.
Just hold
Niff,
on.
niff,
Let
niff,
me
niff,
just.
niff.
He's bossy.
He is bossy.
So
Very, very boss.
also, I'm gagging. I mean,
I'll pour you some
these
tea.
baked goods from the continental shopper here. Kosher. Does that mean anything?
Actually, my mother was Jewish.
Yeah.
She was a German Jew, and my dad was Irish Catholic. Pretty cool, huh?
Oh, what a great
I'm
mix.
fine, really. I'm
What?
positive. Thank
That
you.
cost me serious money.
I'll get to it. Don't worry.
Well, okay, can I have a tea, please? Mary, is there anything else you want? You saw I've got those especially for you. I'm a bit sad.
Oh, well, we won't have that. Here.
Go on.
Here.
Have the
Just to
smallest
make 'em
one.
happy,
There's
okay.
sugar-free if you can't have
No,
sugar.
I can have anything I want.
Okay.
But thank you. They look
welcome.
lovely. No, I got my coffee. Okay, after being at Boss Film for about 4 years, I was antsy. Nobody stays too long, and I wanted to try other things on for size. And I had an opportunity to go and work very briefly as a visual effects consultant producer on a small film for a company that was doing commercials. I worked on a Spick and Span commercial and some gasoline commercial. And then John Candy, his last movie, Wagons East, I worked on that. I remember going to a meeting with the director, and John Candy came in. Big, tall guy, and he was very heavy.
Yeah.
And he is supposed to have a very physical role in the movie, and I understood he was going to do his own stunts, which basically is ride on a horse, fall into water, scramble up a side of a river. And I said, aren't you worried about him having a heart attack? I swear to God, I asked that.
Oh my
And
God.
they said,
Out
he's
loud.
fine. The doctors wouldn't have okayed him. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And we all know how that movie ended. He died of a coronary event.
Yeah.
And before that all happened, I was in charge of finding someone to double for him, some padding and all that. But that was really sad. So I thought, okay, I don't like this. I think I'll do something else. I worked for a fellow named Richard Stutzman, who worked at Boss Film.
Oh.
And he worked for physical effects. I worked on this one movie where I met this youngster named Greg Nicotero from K&B.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. That
Oh
was
my
on Deep
God.
Star 6.
Amazing.
Originally titled Deep Six. I said, you don't know what that means, do you? That's a slang term for throw it away. Deep Six that. So,
I thought it was a cheap
oh, you're
science
Brits,
fiction
what do you
film.
know?
We don't
No.
know. We don't know.
It's a slang term
Oh,
for
Deep
throw
Star
the-
6. Sorry.
Yeah, so then they renamed it Deep Star 6, and I met Greg Nicotero there working on The Creature. And then I went on to work for another effects person, Clay Penny, from Backdraft.
He passed away recently,
He
unfortunately.
did. That was
Yeah.
very sad.
Yeah, huge physical effects guy. Physical effects being explosions, fire,
Exactly.
breakaways, and stuff like that.
Hold that thought for 1 second.
Oh,
oh.
matron.
A good week.
Mary has very kindly given us a lovely bottle of Chandon Brut.
Enjoy.
Cheers, Mary.
Oh, kampai.
Cheers,
Salud.
Mary. Bottoms up.
Same.
Um,
Thank you.
just a tiny drop, James, because you know I fall over if I have alcohol. Thank you.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
So I was trying my hands in different fields. And it's funny how they all are. The physical effects guys are really down to earth. I like to build things, blow them up, and
Yeah.
burn things. And they all live like up in Acton and own acreage and have tools.
Oh, yeah. But they're very clever physical effects because I started in physical effects as a trainee and George Gibbs was the supervisor and he had this whole garage, which, you know, in England was very unusual. He had a cabinet with shotguns and he had explosives, and one fireworks night, there was a bus stop over the other side of his house and there were rowdy kids and he literally got a shell burst simulator. It was basically an artificial tank shell. It's what they
Oh,
use
my.
for training. And so he put a slit in the bottle so it wasn't as powerful, and he detonated the thing, and it just went boom! In fact, it was so powerful, it actually cracked his windows. But these guys have all this stuff, like you were saying, they have these big houses, and it's full of all this wonderful gear. Great characters.
Oh, I loved it. Well, before we get into Rick, I will tell one physical effects story. When I was working for Clay Penny, it was on the movie called Toys. Not
Oh.
a fantastic film, but it was Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And it had a buttload of effects in it.
Sure.
So the shop was located down in the very cusp of Culver City, down near Inglewood. And it was a very nice shop. All the guys there fabricated these little tanks and things that were supposed to carry explosives. And there was a huge vault, a really big pyro vault, where they kept all of the explosives that were going to be used in the big climactic scene. And they were shooting it at 20th Century Fox. In fact, it was so volatile, one of the guys went in there to check out some pyro powder. And he didn't even notice some of the powder had filtered into the air. Static electricity set it off, and he was burned head to toe.
Oh,
Rushed to the Grossman burn ward where they had to graft skin. He's okay. He
Oh, no.
recovered. But that's just how
Yeah.
very, very volatile.
Sounds like flash powder.
Right. Yeah.
And that was just powder. That
Yeah.
was just the powder.
Yeah.
So they had just tons of stuff in this vault. Well, this was in like 1991, and we were working on this for a long time. And then Rodney King happens.
Right.
And then the LA riots happen.
Yeah.
And we were right down in this building, and it's early in the morning. We're watching the news on this little dumb TV with rabbit ears. And as we're watching it, the front door to the shop is open, and it looks out onto the street. And there's coverage of looting that's occurring at what was called a Gemco. It was a department type of store, kind of like a big box store, like an early Costco. And it was in this strip mall. And I'm looking, I said, that's behind us, guys. That's right behind us. And we're watching it. And you could see where there's a looter, and he's carrying like a TV or something.
That's very
And
famous
he
footage.
disappears off frame. And I look up, and I see him in front of the street. It's like, it's unreal. It was freaking unreal. It's like, dude, that's right behind us. And I said, Clay, we should shut the shop up. He goes, well, we got to get to set. I'm going to call you. We didn't have cell phones, really. He goes, just call the stage. We had a stage number, and I'm going to leave one of the Teamsters here with you. So it's just me and a Teamster in the shop. Everybody else leaves because they have to get ready for this great big scene. And meanwhile, things are escalating. And I'm watching, and hours are going, and I said, what's going on? We better leave. I can't reach Clay at the stage. I can't reach anybody. Nobody's there. Even the Teamsters getting nervous. And now the Gemco is set fire to. It's ablaze.
No.
So this is getting to be like early afternoon, and I call the main production office, and this man answers. Toys Production. I said, this is Mary over at the physical effects shop. I can't reach anybody. Well, the whole studio is evacuated. I said, who's this? Charles Neuwirth, the A-level, A-list producer. Talk about a captain going down with the ship. I love it.
Yeah.
And he
Wow.
was there. And I said, well, there's a building on fire right behind us, and they're looting. Well, get out of there. Get out of there now. Yeah, I would love to, Charles, except we have tons and tons of pyro. If this building catches fire, the whole block will explode. Oh, my God. Get out of there now. Get out. Get out. I'm going to send Teamsters down. And I guess he found somebody, and I said, dude, we're out of here. Go. So we get in our cars and go, and he apparently sent somebody down, and they cleared it out.
Wow.
But on my way to the on-ramp, which is all of a quarter mile, it took me like half an hour to get to it because there are looters running toward my
Oh
car,
my, frightening.
smacking my car as I go. It looks like Beirut during the bombing. I'm driving around all this debris and broken appliances. It was terrifying.
Wow.
And then went home and watched LA burn from the top floor of our building.
Gee.
So that was exciting.
Wow.
Hey, welcome to LA.
Yeah.
Come to the glamour of Hollywood.
Unbelievable. I mean, I remember seeing those headlines in the Daily Mail. Parents' newspaper, and it said LA burns, and it's just seeing
It
it.
was
And then,
no
of course,
lie.
we went out there in '92 afterwards to work on Waxworks 2. So it was very bizarre. I remember my friend had this huge '67 Corvette or something with the big fins at the back, and he broke down in East Los Angeles, and he was standing out there. He goes, "Oh, can you help?" And he goes, "It's your fucking car, man." And then just drove, and it was just like, oh my God. So it was a bit, harsh times.
Gotta be careful where you are sometimes.
Yeah. But that must have been terrifying because you and the Teamsters were the only person left in the shop, right?
We were the only two. That was
Jeez.
it, and we got out.
Where was the stage?
They were shooting at Fox.
Oh.
They were actually at the studio on one
Pico.
of the studios there. Yeah, and our building was far away.
Right.
It was owned by the studio, and that's where they did that.
Right.
But we can go to Cinovation.
Yeah. So how did you meet the master? And he is the master.
All right, talk about my naivete. My good friend Sue, who I worked with, she was the receptionist and like a coordinator at the Creature and Model Shop at Boss Film, and we became good friends. We would go out. She had gotten married, and she had gotten pregnant, and she had been offered the job to come and be Rick Baker's office coordinator and work for him. She calls me and says, I can't do it because I'm pregnant. And I gave him your name and number. I said, what's his name again?
Who?
Who? Because that really wasn't it. It says Rick Baker. You know, okay, what has he done? And it's like, have you seen this, that? Oh, oh, yeah, okay. So he does creatures. Copy that. I didn't know who he was. I didn't really know. To me, it's a job. You know,
Right.
I'm not a creator. So if I were a sculptor or a foam runner or one of those,
Yeah.
I would know he was a god, right? So I get the call. I'm Rick Baker. Oh, good for you. Good. I'm Mary. So he invites me to his shop in Glendale, and I come armed with all my papers to show him the kind of spreadsheets I do and all this, and come in, and right away I see Steve Wang again, who, oh, hey, Steve, and I recognize a couple people because I've worked with them in the past. He's got a very nice shop, very meticulously clean shop. Everyone is quietly sculpting. Sculptors are here, foam runners here, painters here. On the other side, they have a foam shop, beautifully laid out. So I go there, and he opens the door and greets me as I come into my office, and that's cool. You go through this little lobby area where he has a big table, and here's samples of his work, and there's Michael Jackson's head and all this. So I come and sit down, and I said, what are you looking for? I'm looking for someone to run the administrative end of my company, and we have everyone here, and we're getting into this sequel of Gremlins called Gremlins 2. We're going to be creating a lot of Gremlins. And I said, well, that's what I do. I organize, I coordinate, I keep budgets, I keep track of things. And I started to show him my spreadsheets. Then I interrupt myself. I said, and I have to be honest with you, I don't know who you are. I said that to him.
Wow. Oh my God.
And he kind of smiles. I said, I know you're famous in this field, but this is what I do, and I'm really good at what I do, and this is what I'm famous for. So that's what I do. He wouldn't even let me finish. I went started to talk. He said, you're hired. Just like that.
Yeah,
I said,
excellent.
but I haven't shown you. It doesn't matter. You're hired.
Wow.
Okay. So I was hired, and it just kind of went from there, and got to meet all these people. It was an amazing thing to be there, and you really get involved because, okay, you're going to wear a gremlin too. At one point, they needed an insert of a gremlin hand, and Lars Anderson, who I'd mentioned earlier, grabs my hand. Well, here's your hand right here, because I was really thin then, and I had these long nails. Perfect gremlin hand. Oh, so I guess I'm going to have a gremlin hand there in the movie. But we would go regularly to the studios for meetings with all of the keys as they did the script breakdowns to make sure who's covering what, gremlin here, gremlin there.
Right.
There was a shop foreman, and he and I would join Rick. It was him. He sort of represented the physical aspects, and I was the administrative. I take notes and stuff. Right. And Rick would always carry a briefcase. And I said, why have you got a briefcase? And he goes, well, they're full of my headshots. And I thought, nobody's going to want your headshots at the meeting. Well, you never know. So we were meeting with Joe Dante and everybody, and Rick had to excuse himself. He went to the restroom, and I said, open up the briefcase. I said, it's locked. If I know Rick, I'll bet you it's 1, 2, 3. It was 1, 2, 3. And it was. And it opened up, and there's all his headshots. I said, give me one of them. He always signed all of his headshots as Beast Wishes from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Beast Wishes, Rick Baker, RB.
Yeah.
And I forged it perfectly, and we put it over on Joe Dante's spot. And Rick comes back, and then Joe, hello, everyone. What is this? Beast Wishes? Thanks, Rick. And Rick says, who gave him that? Oh, no idea. Where did that come from? So we were always doing stupid stuff like that. And then we got out so early that, wow, they're not going to expect us back at the shop for 3 more hours. Swamp Thing is playing. Let's go to the movie and see Swamp Thing. So we went and saw Swamp Thing. That was fun. But going back to the creation of all these characters, we would go to the studio and regularly meet with the writer and Joe and the producer to see how things were going to play. He was writing the script according to how they would be able to work the gremlins.
Right.
Got it.
And to determine, would it be a hand puppet? Would it be articulated? How would we do it? So here's my big opportunity. The writer who was there was on a phone. Remember those big, almost World War II walkie-talkies?
Yeah.
The bricks. He's busy talking and not really in the meeting. He's just not there. And they're talking about how to make a scene work in the movie. If you recall, there's a kitchen scene where it's a kitchen show. And they want to know how to make the gremlins work in the kitchen scene. And they're coming up with all these lame ideas. Obviously, guys who don't cook.
Yeah.
I am the cook. I'm all about kitchen stuff. So I leaned in and said to Rick, could I put in my 2 cents? Go ahead. And I said, why don't you have the woman pick the pot? I think it was margarine, pick the lid up, and the gremlin sits up, really simple to do, and squirt with a turkey baster, because that could be attached. I'm thinking how it would work. And I like like that. I like that. So there's Joe. He had his little voice. And I like that. And I said, well, how are we going to make it go from there? I said, it's really simple. You just have the Gremlins throw metal into the microwave and turn it on. That causes an explosion. That causes the sprinklers to come on. And that causes the Gremlins to get wet and propagate. And I remember Joe, that's brilliant. Joe thought it was brilliant.
Did you get a writing credit?
No.
Damn it.
No. Joe asked me to script it, which I did. And then we had to talk about the very end where the big spider gremlin comes out. And I said, well, why not have little Gizmo pour flammable glue on him, set him on fire with his little arrow, and he immolates. I did that one too. So unscripted, I wrote up those two scenes. But it was unfortunate that the spider gremlin that took so long to create was oversaturated with flammable material by the effects crew that it burned so quick and so fast. If you look at the movie, it's not on camera very long, and they didn't have time to make another one. So there was the quick demise of the spider gremlin.
I'm gonna have to watch that again then.
Yeah. No double takes and kind of stretching it out. Like 1 minute there, next minute frame, skeleton kind of thing.
But it was a fun movie. I mean, I got to meet Christopher Lee. Oh my God.
Oh yes. Did you meet Christopher?
Here I am. I'm supposed to be the adult in the shot, right? So I'm supposed to take a group of puppeteers over to the stage, kind of escort them. And they're all like, Christopher Lee. They're practically wetting themselves. And I'm being very strict. I said, Mr. Lee is working. He's not here for your amusement. I'm giving him like the whole teacher talk. I said, he's working. If you see him, don't rush up to him. Don't talk to him. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. No, I mean it. Just don't. So we're walking along outside of the studio where all the dressing trailers and makeup trailers are. And here a door opens and it's Christopher Lee in his outfit getting ready. And he's got a paper bib on because he's got a makeup coming on. And he opens the door. It's like the sun. It's Christopher Lee. Now who runs up to him? I'm like, Mr. Lee! Oh my God, I love you. The best vampire who ever existed since the beginning of time. I love you. We all ran up to him. He was delightful.
Yeah.
He could not be engaging enough, told stories, and he was absolutely the epitome of gentleman.
Yeah,
I
right.
loved him.
I know this is about you today, but he told this wonderful story about being on holiday with his family in Romania, and the car broke down. And it was a dark and stormy night, and he knocked on the door, and the person that opened it saw him and freaked out.
Oh my God, really? That's amazing.
It was brilliant. He was telling that on Parkinson. I think.
Oh, right,
It was excellent.
Oh,
It was
God.
very, very funny.
That's hilarious.
Anyway,
What a legend.
That was
What a
that was
legend.
great.
It was such a silly, fun movie, really, and Tony Randall's voice and all the silly gremlins that were part and parcel of the thing.
Yeah.
And Rick was really great about letting everyone have their creative juices flow. Says, well, just, make a vegetable gremlin. Show me
I
what
was
you
thinking
got.
of vegetable one. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually was given the prototype.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fat
really?
little thing
Do
with...
you still have it?
No. I'm sorry. I
Could have been
don't.
your pension.
Oh, a lot of
Mary.
things were destroyed during the earthquake.
Oh,
Ah.
Yeah, I lost a lot, but it was done by Norman Cabrera.
Yes. Amazingly
And it was
talented
a
man.
fat, adorable little pot-bellied gremlin with his ears were lettuce. That one, it was so cute.
I have seen some of those, the castings of them. We had a few going around Image back in the day, and they are exquisite.
Yeah.
Just the work personship
Yeah.
in them is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
The personalities came through, and I love the fact that they have like the Lenny and George characters from Of Mice and Men,
right.
and the one that looks like Edward G. Robinson. Very cute. Very old school.
Yeah.
So you were basically there for Gremlins 2, and then what happened after that? You didn't stay because obviously Cinovation only closed a few years ago, didn't it?
It was downsizing. I really didn't want to work in creature effects
Right,
either.
yeah.
So toward the end of that time, I had met my current husband, Les, and we decided we're going to get married. We're going to have a family. And I thought, I'm not going to work 24/7 and do this if we're going to have a family, and I'll just contour. And my husband had started an audio post-production facility where they were doing dubbing and sound effects and that sort of thing for various projects. And he had transitioned from his garage studio to a brick and mortar, and it was a sublet inside of a big warehouse where the owner had built these spaceship sets for his own project.
Yes,
Really?
they did.
And he wanted to turn the building into a legitimate soundstage. So Les had said, well, why don't you hire her? She could do that. She could work for me and she could be there. So I did. I helped retrofit the building and turn it into a soundstage, which it is to this day.
Wow.
And then I was working for my husband, and they were doing anime, primarily Japanese animation, and they were dubbing, and it was the early days, really. We had some amazing projects come through there, and I was not all that familiar. I thought, who's anime? Who's she?
Who is anime?
Yeah, I didn't realize. As a kid, I grew up watching Astro Boy and
Right.
Speed Racer and Kim of the White Lion, and it wasn't called anime. It was rather unfavorably called Japanimation
Right.
and other things, but I was intrigued by it. Well, remember the director and writer who would come in, his name was Kevin Seymour, and I don't know what it was about me. He hated me, and I didn't like him either. We're at Oil and Water. Mary, Kevin. We tried to avoid each other,
Right.
but he was the director, and he and another fellow did all the writing. And one day I overheard him say, I really need more writers. I just don't know what to do. And I tapped him on the shoulder. How about me? How about you what? I thought, how about you give me a chance to write one of the scripts? I'm decent. I could do it. All right. Yeah, he was just so grudging. And he gave me an episode 3 of something called Giant Robo. It was the weirdest, off the chart, over the top show. And he said, just try to make it sync to mouth, and you have a little creative license, stay within the context and be faithful to the originator's thing, read it. And he prepped me, and I did it. And he looked at it and he goes, it's not bad. And I know it was hard for you to say that, wasn't it? It was. And they dubbed it, and it went really well. He goes, would you like another one? Yes, I would. And each one I did better and better. And before you know it, we're like become best friends. And he became my mentor. And he goes, I didn't know you liked Andy Warhol. Man, I love Andy Warhol. And we found we had all these things in common. It's like, wow, you're my best friend. So we really bonded. It was funny. And about a year after I started, I'm still a newbie at this. Kevin walked up to me. He goes, Mary, I've been talking to Ken Iadomi. Ken Iadomi was a producer who brought a lot of projects to our studio, and he worked for Bondi. So he brought in a lot of Bondi projects. I've been talking to Ken Iadomi, and we have decided that you are going to write Ghost in the Shell.
Wow.
And I went, what's a ghost in the shell? Like, I never heard of it. And he looks at me, you don't know? Not a clue. It was that we have much work, Padawan. Look, he goes, I'll have you prepped, don't worry. Oh, and right before he came up to it, too, it was Kenny Adomi, who is Japanese and speaks in 3-word sentences, had come up to me before then. And he goes, Mary, how are you? I said, I'm fine, Ken. How are you? Good. You go to Japan. I said, I'd like to go to Japan sometime.
Yeah.
Thank you. He goes, you go in 2 weeks. You have he did. You go in 2 weeks. You have passport? What are you talking about? I have Kevin explain. And I really believe that the only reason I wrote Ghost in the Shell was that I had a valid passport. If I didn't have a valid passport, I wonder if I would have even gone. Yeah, and then 2 weeks later, I'm on a plane. Back when you could do this, I was handed a letter box, one of those like Staples office supply letter boxes, filled with all the manga written by, not Mamoru Oshii was the director of it was...
James, this is your specialty.
It'll come to me. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I blame you because you gave me this to drink.
Well, you brought it.
I
More
know,
champagne.
that's true. I know.
More champagne.
Masamune Shiro, or Shiro Masamune. I've never really understood which comes first, and that seems to be a matter of debate. But he was the creator of the Ghost in the Shell manga.
Yeah.
So I had to read all of that on the 10-hour flight to Japan so that I would know all there was to know about the manga for Ghost in the Shell.
Did you see the movie, though?
It was being done concurrently.
Oh, really?
The animated film was being done concurrently with the American release. So there was nothing to see except the manga.
Wow.
So anyway, we went to Japan, and I was the only woman of the group. Ken came. Lawrence Guinness, one of the heirs to the Guinness beer fortune.
Ooh.
He was a producer for Manga Entertainment.
I'd be a producer if I was heir to the Guinness fortune.
Yeah.
Right?
He never brought any beer, the schmuck.
What year was
That
this?
was 1995.
Oh, okay. So it must have been amazing. I assume you went to Tokyo?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We went to Tokyo for a week of meetings, and I tell you that I just loved Japan. It was amazing. I really want to go back. So we went there for intense meetings, all-day meetings, and I would go. I had my computer and I had my notebook. I had watched everything. I read up on all the characters, and I'm ready to listen. Every single shot was gone through because he wanted to make sure that the adaptation in English was done extremely faithfully. And we're all about that. That was like our mission statement. We're not going to screw with your original thing. So we go up there, and Oshii has one expression. He doesn't smile. He doesn't frown. He doesn't get it. He has no emotion. I'm like, wow, okay. And we get up there, and he never looked at me. He never spoke to me. He only spoke to the translator. And we'd go through things. And as we went through everything, I would occasionally have a question. And as we were going through the film, it wasn't even complete. There were black slugs that were not animated yet. But we went through everything. And we come to a part where, again, I don't know his work. There's a scene, repeated scene, 2 of them, with a basset hound. And he does nothing without purpose. And every frame has a purpose. I said, please ask Oshii-san, what is the significance of the dog? And the translator, and he says something. And he looks at me and he does the shrug. He said, you don't know what's in your own movie. Okay, moving on. We get to the dog again. I said, again, the dog? I get the same shrug. And I thought, why is he being so coy? That was weird. But I didn't understand it. And then we get to a scene where we're talking about guns. There's a lot of weaponry in the movie. I'm going to preface this. I don't care if it's politically incorrect. I own guns. I am a shooter. I've been a shooter since I was 5. I come from a family of hunters and shooters. I'm very careful and respectful of weapons, but I know my guns. I know guns. So that's not a big thing in Japan. You're not even allowed to own guns. But here we are talking about guns, and some of the nomenclature he's picked out for the guns, some are real, some are not. And I'm thinking in terms of how am I going to make that fit into the mouth flaps. And I said, can we go with a different type of name? Because you're not showing the gun, you're just talking about it. And I don't like this. It's awkward and it won't fit. How about this? And all of a sudden he turns to the translator and he's angry. And the translator looks nervous and talks to me. Oshii-san would like to know what you know about guns. Okay, I'll tell you what I know about guns. I said, I'm a shooter. I'm a very good shooter. I own a lot of guns. I own a rifle. I own pistols. And that went back and his eyes got big. What kind of guns? I said, well, I have a Beretta, I have a Smith & Wesson. I said, I have a .357 Magnum. All of a sudden, he sits up and he clasps his head and goes, Dirty Harry gun? I said, oh, and you speak English. Okay. Okay, got that. So that was funny. And ever since that moment, he looked at me. And it's like, wow, I needed a little respect with weapon. Okay. Okay. So we got through all those, and one night after one of the meetings, we said our goodbyes, and Kenny Adomi simply asked, you like Chinese food? I said, yeah, I love Chinese food. We go have dinner. Okay, sounds good. But what he didn't tell me was that we were going to dinner with other people. And I didn't understand why right before we left for Japan, he had given me this old VHS. Remember VHS?
Yeah.
This old copy of this movie that was 3 vignettes called Memories by Otomo, who did Akira.
Okay.
And I watched it and I thought, why do you want me to watch this? I just want you to watch. Okay. No, he never explained anything. So he just did what he wanted. And we go to dinner. And it's dinner with Otomo and the 3 animators who had each directed those individual segments.
How cool is that?
It's like a little heads up would have been nice. Well, and in Japan, you don't ask for liquor. They just put it in front of you. It's like, oh, there's 3 beer for me. And we're tired. It's been a long, hot day. And I'm sitting next to one of his animators who's a rather diminutive man. He was very quiet. I remember he had a little brush mustache and a little cap. And they were introducing me, and they said, there's Tanaka-san. He did Magnetic Rose, which was my favorite of the 3. And I reached over. I'd already had 2 beer. I reached over and I put my hand on his arm. I said, I loved Magnetic Rose. That was my favorite one. I guess I proposed to him.
Oh!
Because he was I'm going to marry this one. But he was like on me the whole time. And in Japan, the appropriate thing to do is to pour each other's drink. You never pour your own. So after dinner, we had a lovely dinner. Well, it was very nice to meet you. Oh, no, now we go drinking. Oh, my God. So here we go. We go out to one of the oldest bars in Tokyo that has tatami mats where you kneel down, and it's a beautiful place. And I had been out earlier that day at lunch with Kenny Adomi, who helped me purchase a gift for my husband. We weren't married yet. It was a laser disc of Macross Plus, and it was Shoji Kawamori, who had worked with Oshi-san in the mecha designs of Transformers or whatever. And it was this beautiful, gorgeous laser disc. So I'm carrying this around with me with my briefcase. So when we get to the bar, there is a cubby. Now, this is an old bar, and the cubby's maybe 5 feet high. I'm guessing like 20 feet long. The thing is huge, and it's made out of teak. So I'm putting everything, my shoes, everything into a cubby, but the laser disc is too high. So I just set it on top, lean it against. And then we go and we start the drinking process. I don't remember much because I couldn't even feel myself after we were done. But we closed the place. And I remember when we were served the sake, I picked up the sake. Everybody had this collective gasp. And then I poured a drink for Mr. Tanaka because I had studied the etiquette. And they all went, oh. Like, wow, what would have happened? Would they have like chopped my head off or something? So anyway, we're pouring drinks and he can't keep my glass full enough. I'm so drunk. And we get up to go. There's no one in the place. I go to get the laser disc and I knock it behind this 1,000-pound cubby. And I just look at it and I walk over to Ken, and Ken's already got a cigarette in his mouth. I said, Ken, hi. I said, you know that disc that you helped me buy for less? Hi. I knocked it behind that. And all of a sudden his eyes go, oh! And he runs over to the hostess, who runs to the kitchen. The only people there are the chef and his assistant. So here comes the chef. He looks like a Japanese Popeye. He's bald. He's got these massive forearms, and he comes walking out, and he's got this little skinny assistant next to him, and he's rubbing his chin, assessing it. So they both grab onto the thing and pull it away from the wall, and it sounds like an old ship. It's creaking. And then he puts the guy up against it to brace it. The guy is shaking as he's trying to hold it. The bigger guy gets on top, and he pulls out the laser disc.
Oh, wow.
And then he starts to pull out everything else that's fallen behind for like the last 80 years. And I'm like, that's amazing. Look at what he's, Ken, do you look at that? He goes, we must go. No, this is the best show in Tokyo right now. We can't go. There, that was my drunken, stupid night. And then I came home and wrote Ghost in the Shell.
Now, didn't you have to come up with a special name for something?
Oh, yeah.
Was that Ghost in the Shell, or was that something? Yeah.
Oh, the gun.
I've heard whispers of this story.
There were a lot of problems with the film. When I got back, I said, you have 2 weeks. Back then, that was not very long. 2 weeks is pretty typical for a 22-minute show. I had 2 minutes and reminded you that it hadn't been fully animated yet. And Yutaka Maseba, who was the immediate producer, I loved him. He was a very good friend. He was very thrifty. So he comes in and he hands me this VHS. Here's your working thing to put into the deck that I was using. It's grimy. It's dirty. Where'd you get this? Oh, it was in my garage. He just re-recorded the movie that he had over whatever it was. He recorded over it. So whenever you do that, you often have generational loss. And that's the best. It'll do. Well, you're not writing this. So I put it in, and it's a very dim, faded copy. It's grainy. It's difficult to see any of the mouth movements. Okie dokie. So I wrote it under these time constraints, just round the clock, writing. And they would get me the visuals as they came for the missing slugs. I finally finished it. Kevin, the director, kept coming out. Are you done? Are you done? Are you done? Are you done? So yeah, okay, it'll be, what's taking you? I have one line. Write it! I will! And it was a scene near the end where Motoko has attacked the Fuchikoma, the big tank, where she's trying to pull up the hatch and her synthetic skin is tearing, and the thing grabs her by the head. She's about to be crushed when you hear this amazing kaboom, and the whole room shakes, and it's Bateau in the mezzanine, and he's been shooting at this thing, and he finally disables the tank with this massive weapon. So the dialogue, it just doesn't work. She is speaking to him saying, what was that? He goes, oh, it was something that the weapons division gave me. It's part of my private collection. And it just seemed wilted, just seemed damp. It didn't have kapow to it, so to speak. So I thought about it, and I got so frustrated because I had to turn it in. I just said, screw it. I said it was your standard issue big gun.
Right.
And that was it.
It's a simple fix.
A simple thing. Standard issue big gun. And I was sure they'd throw it away. And it became a meme.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it on shirts and hats. It's like, wow. So, yeah, I was glad they
So
kept
you're
that.
responsible for that.
I am, yes, the standard issue big gun person.
That is awesome.
Imagine if you got a residual for every time that meme got shown.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here. No.
No, you wouldn't be here down in the trenches with us, the likes of us.
No,
Totally true, I know.
So Mary, I was trying to think, when did we actually meet? Because
it was Digimon. It was when you were working with Terry.
Yeah.
And I don't know who.
she was producing it. I was the exec on it.
Yeah.
And we were in a writers' meeting. Was it for season 2?
It was down in Westwood.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the season. I went down there and you gave me one of the episodes and I came home. I was all excited. And then my husband said, no, I can't watch the kid and I can't do this. I'm busy now. You can't take this job. Wow. Yeah, I'm blaming you, Les. So.
Oh, Les, you're in trouble now.
Yeah.
Take it, accept it.
He doesn't even know where I am. He just So due to circumstances beyond my control, I had to like pass on it after getting all amped up to write that. But that's where we first met.
Yeah.
And Mary Elizabeth and Steve Bloom, he had just started writing.
That's right. You and Les had worked with Mary Elizabeth and Steve Bloom way before Digimon days.
In fact, I will say that if it were not for me and Les, I don't think Steve would be a voice actor.
Oh.
Because he was working for
More bubbly.
Charlie Band.
Okay.
Charles Band.
Charles.
Oh, yes. He brought a castle in Italy, didn't he?
Yes,
He's gonna
and
make
he's
yarn.
done a number of amazing things.
From beyond.
So he was working, I believe, in distribution or legal. He was doing some corporate and administrative work for Charles Band, for Alchemy and Effects in Charles Band's company. But he had this golden voice, and he had already begun to do some voice work. And I believe they actually started at Les's garage, in a humble garage in Pacoima. And then he came to the facility he had, and Steve was great. Steve is not only a golden throat, he's just a mensch.
They say that about me. I got a golden voice.
He is amazing.
Yes.
I mean, his range is incredible. I had him on a couple of my shows too.
Yeah, and he's so nice.
And he can do like super squeaky 1 second and they do like this deep sort of like very...
Because he's Spike in Cowboy Bebop, the lead. He's just amazing. And he's such a good guy.
He is.
But I hope Steve doesn't mind me telling the story. We had a little waiting area and he was sitting there. I came in and he was weeping. I mean, crying. I said, what's wrong? He goes, my wife doesn't want me to do this anymore. And she wants me to stay where I'm at. And I have thoughts about Charlie that I won't get into. Well, maybe I will. Depends after I'm done with that glass. But his wife didn't want him to move into that. And I said, you can't throw this opportunity away. Your voice is 1 in a million. It's amazing and you're so good. Everyone loves you. Then my husband came in. What's going on? So we both sat there. We just kind of sandwiched him and said, dude, you cannot. You must. And after a while, he said, thank you. Thank you very much. And he pursued it and then divorced his wife.
Dear.
Yeah.
That's perfect because he married Mary Elizabeth and they are just a perfect couple.
And I think everything worked out. Everyone seems to be happy. It worked well. And I'm really happy that he went that way because he would have missed an incredible opportunity.
That's so good that you did that. We need that sometimes.
I think he got that
be told.
validation from a lot of people in the industry because he was so incredibly likable. It's like Johnny Bosch came from Power Rangers. Johnny is a lovely young man. And he was so sweet and he wanted to get into voiceover. He just had no experience and he was not good. And Kevin wanted to say, we're just not going to use him. And I remember talking to him. I just got all up in his face and, oh, no, you're not going to get rid of Johnny. Oh, no, you're not. And he goes, that Johnny, he's a good boy. He has, martial arts training. He's disciplined and he's sweet. And I love him. I love him. You're not getting rid of Johnny. And Les did the same thing. It's like, okay. And he backed down and gave Johnny prompting and a little more encouragement and instruction. And there's Johnny. Yeah. There's Johnny.
Amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
But a lot of people started and came up through the ranks there, and here we are.
Here
we are.
But I mean, just looking at your writing credits, I mean, they are vast.
They're talking about the writing credits. Sorry, James, to cut in.
Always. Go ahead. Cut me down.
But no, because it is amazing, because just this journey so far, and we've included the writing, but just the journey, how you've gone from all these different disciplines. And
Yeah.
I think it's incredible, and it's really inspiring. You don't have to be limited to one thing. You don't have to see yourself in one way. You can be many things, I think. I mean, to go from PA to writing anime script.
And running a studio.
Yeah, and running a studio. I mean, it's
Well,
amazing.
I
Very
just
inspiring.
can't figure out what I want to do when I grow up. I mean, I actually have always felt envious of people who knew what their callings were. You're an amazing storyboard artist. But you started with creature effects, but
Yeah,
you've gone,
thank you.
that's almost a logical extension. You're seeing the physical, now you're putting it into a two-dimensional form. And storyboarding is a very difficult job when you do it correctly.
Oh, Mary, I like you even
Well,
more.
I'll tell you, my my practice husband, sorry, his father was Harold Michelson. Do you know?
Yeah, oh, of course I know Harold Michelson. He's the man who, that film with the shot through the legs, what was that called?
Oh, The
He-
Graduate.
Yeah, he created that shot.
He did the birds. And I
Yes.
remember when I started dating Dennis, his son, and we went to his parents' house and he said, sit down. Okay. And close your eyes. Okay. It's like, what? And I feel something in my lap. I look down. It's a binder. It's like, it's a binder? He goes, open it. And open it. It's the birds, the original storyboard.
my
The
God.
father was allowed to keep it. It was a family thing.
Wow.
And I'm looking through it and I realize every single shot is exactly what
Yeah.
you see. But he understood the composition and the camera and depth of field. And people think it's not just stick figures doing
Right.
things.
No.
It's so much more.
Yeah.
That's
Well, thank
something
you.
I would do, so I don't
Oh,
forget the shot. But no, it's like I remember you storyboarded a sequence that was one of the first things we shot at your stages.
Oh, you did the boards.
He did the boards for that film that I won't mention of
Oh.
getting caught under the car.
Yeah.
Which was a
Yeah.
really excellent sequence, actually. I actually filmed it shot for shot, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fantastic, and you did such a great job on that.
It's
Oh, thank you very
you're
much.
basically drawing the vision of the director and you're laying it out for the camera person, the DP. It's such a
Yeah.
critical role, and I think it's been diminished and undervalued because people don't really understand what it is.
No, well, also I think it's Hollywood's dirty little secret, and I get so sick of seeing these making ofs. And I respect all these crafts, stunt, special effects, obviously, having worked in a lot of them. But they just do not say, oh, this came from this drawing before previs. Previs comes from the drawing, I mean, the sketch or whatever, even if it's rendered in computer now, which they all are. But there's no admittance to that. It can get a bit depressing. It can get a bit
Yeah.
fucked off with it, quite frankly. So it's nice that people like yourself do see that and appreciate, especially with the connection there with Michelson, which is amazing.
Technology has really taken over a lot of the standard done by human jobs. And I've seen, obviously, things have gotten much easier and been facilitated through technology. But technology, it's like, is it replacing humanity? A little bit too much. I don't like all the CG.
No.
And what I am happy to see, do you know who Gene Warren
Yeah.
was?
Oh, yeah, I worked with Gene Warren.
Oh, he and I used to go dancing. we were old friends. I know him from a long time ago, but I was so pleased that he was teaching actual how to work with practical physical effects at the USC. And kids were like knocking over themselves to get his class.
Sure.
He said, if you can get your effects in camera and do it real, do it. And it looks real. It
Yeah.
looks organic. It seems like you've got so much weight to it. Because I look at these digital creations and the character looks too light. And it's supposed to enable you to get shots you can't normally get. But if you can normally get it, I would go for it.
I agree. And I think Harry Potter was a very good example of that, where, Game of Thrones, where they had an actor dressed with prosthetic makeup and then they made him a giant. They used digital to put
Brilliant,
him
yeah.
perfect. But when you have the digital giant in its entirety, CG, your brain, uncanny valley, you know that. And Gene Warren, I worked on the show with him as Atomic Train, and he built this huge train and he did an atomic blast and all that. And it was just, you can't beat the tenacity and the craft, I think, of that.
There, it is. It is a craft. It's truly a craft. And it feels like it's going to go the way of the dinosaurs soon, if it hasn't.
Talking of that with your stage, so there's all this thing now with the stagecraft, the LCD screens.
The LED screens.
Yeah.
Yeah, the walls.
Yeah, because that seems quite impressive when I watch The Mandalorian.
They are. In fact, we were hoping to go into a partnership with another company that had one because we built a small stage. In fact, what used to be Magnitude 8 Post was ripped out because my husband's retired and it became a small stage. We're going to do that. But then it got taken over by the owner who's doing his own projects. We still have a big digital green screen, but we are still talking about maybe implementing that because it works in conjunction with a green screen very often. Old technology is not forgotten. And if people know how to use it effectively, it could be the best thing for your project. So we are talking about that. It could do anything in the blink of an eye. And unless somebody really knows how to utilize it to the best advantage, you can really combine everything and make it effective and look great. I love The Mandalorian, the way that looks.
Yeah.
In fact, they were shooting some of it across the street in the wash.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, they were?
We didn't know that. My stage manager was looking at a Google aerial thing, and he's like, what the heck is that? And he walks over, that's the Mandalorian, man. It's across the street.
Oh, wow.
That was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
In the wash.
That's really good. And your spaceship set's still there, right?
They are still there. Those vintage things, they're like 31 years old now.
It's amazing.
Wow.
I was laughing at your Facebook post the other day when you had that young kid. This kid comes in. Tell the story, Mary. It's great.
Every once in a while, of course, we get calls from people who don't know anything about film and well, you can't afford it or you don't know what you're doing or you're a student. And this kid called from New York. He was a boy. Hi, I'm calling about your spaceship sets. And right away, I'm not rude or anything. I said, yes, we have them. And, these are for film and video and they're not inexpensive and you have to have production insurance and all this. Oh, yeah, I got my dad. My dad's going to handle that. Okay, got it. Well, sure enough, he called back the next day with his father, who is a New York businessman. And we talked about it. And the father talked to me and said, this kid's got like 8 million hits on TikTok. Really? And I watched it. It was nothing spectacular, but he did it. The kid is 18 and they moved forward with a rental and they're doing their music video. He goes by Lil, Lilmabu, Lil Mabu. And Lil Mabu. So I tell his father, I'm very patient with everybody and tell him about everything and where to stay in hotels. So they come in on a Saturday and I go in to meet them. And sure enough, they couldn't be more New York. Oh, I just want to thank you so much. They're Italian. They're Italian New Yorkers.
Oh, that's cool.
They're so nice. They're so nice.
Oh, brilliant.
This boy, he's a good boy. He's straight A's. He's on the speech team. He does all this, that, and the other. And I'm coming out here to make sure he doesn't get mixed up with any wrong elements.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, that's so sweet.
It is. That's a great story.
But the kid is 18, just like fresh 18, and he's got a space suit, and they're going to hang him from a truss or something with this rigger. And he's got all his kids around him. And I said, we've had NASA here, JPL, and William Shatner shot here. And he goes, that's cool. Who's he? Oh my God. How old do I feel right now?
Oh, dude,
that's just, that's harsh.
All right. My big claim to fame at the stage is I don't know who any rappers are. I know who Snoop Dogg is because he's on a show with Martha Stewart.
Yeah, right.
So, okay, but he's been there twice.
Right.
And I remember getting really angry at his group because they were smoking dope in the building. I don't care what you smoke, but you can't smoke it in my building because it's a fire thing. Yeah. So I have to go up there and say, hi. Here comes the old middle-aged white lady. Hi, I know you like to do this, but you have to do it outside. And please don't do it. I'm being really polite. And they're totally ignoring me like I'm not there until I get angry. I said you're not smoking it here. You take it outside. I'm going to go down there and tell Snoop that the cold protection shut down because you won't smoke it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So they go down there. And so Snoop comes in one day, and I'm walking out, and he's walking with some guy. And he's got that kind of walk. Hey, Mary. I said, hi, Snoop. Hey, I want you to meet this friend of mine. This is Pharrell. And I put my hand out, and I said, I'm sorry, what's your name? And he looks at me, Pharrell. He bites it out, and I thought, that's somebody I should probably know. And I just quickly make it, I'm sorry, I have to run. Bye. And as I leave, I hear Snoop go, she don't know who you are. I thought, I see. He got us both in one comment.
Oh,
jerk.
So
we get that a lot, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. You be sweet now.
It makes me want to start beatboxing.
No,
I bet
no.
I'm going to eat this now.
Do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Mary's tucking in.
Go on.
Yeah. Is it good? What's it taste like?
It's kosher.
Apricot,
Oh.
I believe.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah. No, it's a good bakery.
I'm coming back to this place
Bakery.
again.
Yeah.
My heritage is part Jewish as well. So,
Well.
anyway, moving swiftly on.
Oh,
But
so-
Mary, just to end,
Yes.
to bring it skidding up to current times. Now, you're a writer. So, are you in the WDGA? No,
funny.
WGA.
the WAGA?
WGA.
The
Writers Guild.
WGA, yes.
I am not, although I was invited. Of all the things I've ever written, I wrote probably the absolute worst version of Biohazard Degeneration. It was shit.
Champagne, quick!
Yeah, and it was all a computer graphic generated version, and I wrote it. And because it played theatrically, it met the criteria for WGA, and I get this big glowing invitation. You are now welcome to join. Well, okay, but I don't want to pay all these dues if I'm not
Yeah.
going to be writing. So I just kind of passed on it. So I'm not WGA. But I'm now working on my own original stuff that I hope one day, someday, please let me
I
finish.
Get
really
in touch
hope
with
so.
that kid whose dad's a money guy.
That's funny you said that. I'll tell you, the kid's dad, I Googled him. His name came up #1 out of all of New York. He owns funeral parlors.
Well, they
A
say it's
lot
a
of
dying
money.
business, but
Da-da bing. But
People are just, never mind.
I thank you. Oh, I am appearing in Birmingham next week.
Don't forget to tip your waitress. Yeah.
But what I'd like to do is finally get some of my original stuff done and short stories and
So we're
scripts.
talking short films, motion pictures, or
One is
animation?
an episodic children's show
All right.
that I started when my child was little.
told me about that a while back.
And now it's getting reformulated, and I've got someone interested in working with me on it. We want to shoot it, and I'm hoping it will be done, at least a pilot, before the end of the year.
Nice.
Brilliant.
So I don't know. You never know where these things are going to go.
Oh, Mary, that's awesome.
I really hope that happens for you.
Thank you.
So you get more of a
And
sniff.
me too.
Oh, yes.
But I was like, I really want
Yeah,
I
we
need a
didn't get
storyboard
discuss
artist. I
James.
need
We
you.
didn't
You don't
discuss
need to
James.
discuss me. We don't need to discuss me at all. We talk about me all the time. This is Mary's day, and
No, but I wanted to get Mary's perspective on you.
don't put her on the spot.
No, I'm not.
But he makes the best eggnog in the world. What more does one need to
Hey,
know?
Thank you
what
very
a
much.
great way to
There you
end
go.
it.
That's awesome.
No, James is great. When I
Oh,
met him,
bless you.
you've always been great.
No, he's
Just
a good
really
man.
enjoy.
Mary's been very instrumental in being so generous with her time and letting us film on the stage.
Are you doing anything with that? Did anything come of it?
You know, Sam will be the next person we bring on at some point or another.
Oh, yeah.
This is a labor of love for Sam.
Really?
Yeah, he shot the original stuff on 16mm. It then moved to video when video became a thing. It then we shot it digital. We did some pickups at the stage. What, 2019?
Was it that long?
Yeah, it was
wow.
December 2019, just before lockdown.
And you were dressed as a gherkin.
When I was dressed as a
the
gherkin.
green outfit, yeah.
Yes.
I thought it looked good.
An interesting thing about that.
Knuckles.
Yeah. I was pulling that freaking flight suit on, and Sam sort of like slips into his, no problem, like this. It was 2 months after that, Sam goes, "Yeah, really sorry, I owe you an apology. I put on your suit." I'm like, "Thanks, Captain Moose Knuckle here."
Yeah, my nads don't thank you for that.
Yeah. It was,
Snug.
and then you took a picture. Of
I
me
have
and
it.
Gwen.
It's still hanging
Oh
over
my
my
God.
desk. Oh, it's there. It's there in perpetuity, my friend.
Oh my
Sorry.
God! All right, well, fine. No, but seriously, Mary, thank you. Thank you,
it was
thank you.
such a pleasure. Thank you. And thank you for the goodies and for cracking open the celebratory bottle. Yeah, because who
cheers,
needs
Mary.
to drive
Thank
home?
Mary Claypool, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Before we go, we bring you our
Fact check! Fact check! Fact check!
Fact check segment.
Here with the benefit of hindsight,
And editing.
we can own up to our mistakes.
So, James, the Renfield screening that I very graciously took you to, the gentleman who Heiko and April introduced you to, because I was too shy, was Robert Kirkman.
Thank you. That was the man whose name escaped me, and I had a nice conversation with him actually, and that was really good, I have to say. So, thank you, Heiko and April.
You're welcome.
Martin.
Yes.
The Paul Thomas Anderson movie that you storyboarded and
Yes.
subsequently forgot what the name of the movie was Boogie Nights.
Ah, Boogie Nights, yes. Well, I'm so bitter about it, of course, that naturally the title would escape me. Thank you, James.
You're welcome. And then lastly,
Yes, Jonathan Stark was the name of the actor. Mary was talking about the creature and visual effects for Fright Night, and he played Billy Cole, aka Billy Bones, because he melts on the stairs.
I remember that scene. That
Yeah.
was excellent.
It's brilliant, brilliant.
All right. Well, that's it. I think we had a great one today.
Brilliant. I love hearing those stories from you know where. The trenches.
And we had our own sniff of Hollywood through Mary.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you, Mary.
I don't know. That sounds a bit worrying. James.
Might cut that.
And on that note, we shall talk again soon.